Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We're back again with Wargame Red Dragon, and I'm getting a little bit coalition, so I'm playing as South Africa against the combined might of, it looks like, the French, the United States, and, who is the third? Probably Scandinavia? Yeah, looks like Scandinavia. And this is in revenge for the last couple games played with this friend group where I had a little bit of success in various parts of the field. So it is a 3v1 on Highway to Seoul, and my intention is to absolutely smack one of the three of them right off the bat, hopefully enough, and surprisingly enough, to take that person basically out of contention so that they aren't able to work together to split my micro. So we have a lot of points off the start. I believe this was 3,000 points. So I've deployed 3,000, each one of them had 1,000 to work with as well. And I mean, we can see several Rooivalks, 120 point, very excellent, very capable helicopters moving up. My intention is hit Golf, hit the reinforcement section next to Foxtrot, swing around if I can toward Hotel. We do have paratroopers on the way as well. I do want to actually hold Golf, not Charlie, just as a bit of a surprise. We have artillery coming in, but not a lot of success so far with that, just a little bit, just that little tiny bit behind my armored column. I do also have a couple rhinos shooting back, but not a ton of luck there. We do make contact, and an AH-1J Cobra goes down to a Rooivalk. That is a signal for me to drop off my paratroopers. I believe they're probably SASF, and our main group, this main column, is headed up to Delta and Bravo as well. There is a temporary cap on Golf, but I think that was actually... yeah, I'm not entirely sure, because that was shot down. Those men should have died, and we see the Rooivalk kind of holding back. Alouette K cars, these themselves usually, I think, transport or really cheap. Yeah, 25 point helicopters moving up, trying to just surprise things with autocannons and get a couple good, valuable kills on the way. We do have tanks opening up, Rooikat 105s, very, very quick, 150 km/h road speed, 120 off-road, and we're just pummeling Vimes as he was moving up into his position in Golf. So we do have Vimes here, we have Justin Talbot and Vogel kind of over in the Foxtrot area, but that position is also getting a little bit overwhelmed as the Rooivalks really prove their worth and prove their capability off the bat. We do start losing a couple Alouettes, and here is a main push. Pivet's moving up, but line of sight blocked against most of the remaining Alouettes, and we do have yet two groups of SASF moving up as well, taking out, I believe that was an MH-60L DAP, and the US position has just been absolutely crushed. In the meantime, we do have, Lowing here as well, not Vogel. We have Lowing and his French in the center. Some of their tanks get a little bit of success here, and I lose a couple of these vehicles, but largely speaking, we're able to crush the forward position out of Foxtrot, and of course, sitting here now in the reinforcement lane, we should get a couple of valuable things out of that as well. Eyes on a combat, eyes on a Sheridan, but the SASF are moving up through the forest and making short work of this unit of Rangers. Very nice infantry Rangers, I mean, I can't fault it for that, it's just a little bit overwhelmed by the SASF and supporting fire from the Rooikats. So if we zoom out, we have another salvo of artillery coming in, and if it isn't this one, my rhinos do go down pretty soon, but ATGM teams moving up a little bit too far, and I have Rooikats, Logimes, and an Oliphant moving up and securing most of Delta. Echo is pretty unperturbed at the moment, but I figured with how hard we hit them across this sort of ridge that there wouldn't really be much action in that spot right now. I do bring in a Buccaneer. The hope was to kill an AA piece. Instead, I got whatever this was. It looks like a tank. But I do also lose the Buccaneer to a Crotal, so not exactly ideal. An Alouette K car showing, yes, 3 FOBs, but also a fair bit of anti-air in that position as well, and my SASF are finally getting worn down by sheer weight of numbers. So the poor guys have done their very best, chewed through a couple units of Rangers, done a lot of damage to US Marines, but it isn't quite enough. And we do have eyes on an M55-1A1 Sheridan, as well as whatever this is, and as second I see it start shooting at my Puma, I push the Rooivalk forward, we take a shot in, have to manually target onto the Pivats instead of the Sheridan, which was a little bit closer. And there it goes, that's Pivats down. This leaves me free range to shoot in at the Sheridan. And swing and a miss. Let's see if we're taking another shot. Yep, there it is. And kaboom. Wonderful. So that's about 95 or so points down in that section of the map alone. And those Ingwe Sal H missiles are definitely proving their worth, 70% accuracy when I'm not moving. I did also bring up an Oryx, and this is just to harass the US Marines and light riflemen in that area. I don't know if we actually killed that unit or if they just got out of visibility range. However, we do also now find in the back the majority of Lowen's push. So, if we take a look at the grander battlefield, it seemed that Vimes was holding here, that Justin was holding over on this side with a couple of Lowen's units, but really not a ton. And part of what explains that is there is in fact a large helicopter force that was moving around the side. Unfortunately for Lowing, it was seen by my XH1 Alpha over on this side, just barely. I did also notice it on the minimap, so if those of you who were eagle-eyed previously probably saw it there as well, and I do have the points to bring out not one, but two Carvers. Now these are Air Superiority fighters, this is not their main role, but we are able to take out a Celtic, and from here they're just sort of going to pull apart what remains of this rather devious paratrooper and helicopter push. So here comes another Carver. Yeah, and that Tiger Hap, I mean, it's an excellent escort, it just gets a little bit overwhelmed, and now I can send up an XH1 Alpha and a Rooivalk in relative safety to take those guys down. In addition, the Rafale that was sent sort of over the top, a little bit over ambitious here. It was stunned by some of my anti-air in the center, namely the Cactus Sauve, and doesn't actually make great contact. It's gone after by another Carver. It does manage to get my scout helicopter, and that's a problem because now my Rooivalk is operating blind. Infantry and forests can and will take down Rooivalks if you're too close to them, which is a major problem. However, one of those landed Puma pirates does go down to Sal H missile. The second one seems to be eating a couple Mistrals, down it goes, but they were able to drop off their infantry, and I do have to keep that in mind moving forward. In the meantime, a couple of Razzle 20s have moved up, and I'm just sort of securing, fleshing out defenses in Delta, bringing up a couple of things for Echo as well, and watching the sad death of a tank that was pushed way too far forward for its own good. However, we do get revenge as that Super Cobra goes down to Cactus Sauve, one of the single meanest AA pieces I've seen in a long time, 3,500 meter range for Sauve IR missiles. It does pay for that, of course, with 75-point price tag, but it's really not too much more than a 60-point Crotal, and the additional range is very much worth it. So we do have a scout helicopter over here. I'm looking for the remains of the paratroopers that I suspect were over in that position, but unfortunately no luck for them right now, and I'm sort of content holding here because it is still 3v1. I am well and truly outnumbered. We're going to turn up a little bit faster, but I'm taking out a +2. And that's going to be pretty hard to shake. I'd have to lose complete control of one of these, well, actually, I'd have to be pretty much pushed out of it, because counter-capping is not enough. I'd go from a +2 to a +1. We do lose a Rathel 20 in Gulf, and that sort of tells me, okay, this may be contested soon. So I've run up a couple of Bocop to get a little bit closer in, and now, finally, my enemy is catching on to... I've been sitting over here just destroying AA pieces and tanks for a while now. So of course we were all in Discord, and they finally do mention something like that. And of course here's the AA counter. 2 Gazelle Celtics coming in, single Rooivalk trying to fight them off. One of the Celtics goes down, 2 missiles, traded it, and yes, okay, the Rooivalk goes down, but so do both of the Celtics, which, I mean, that's not exactly an even trade. That is a little bit down for me, but it really could have been far worse. More artillery still coming in, and if you'll notice, my rhinos were definitely killed by counter battery fire here. I should have been moving them. There was a lot going on, and I wasn't quite able to keep all of that going as well as I should have. There's another Puma pirate taking off. I do spot it, and I think to myself, okay, was this reinforcements? Was that from the first group? It's a little hard to tell. 2 Cheetah Ds coming in, hoping to get a cheeky kill on some sort of AA piece, and we have a Carver going after the Mirage 5F. Rooikat 76 moving up, and an M3A2 Bradley is 80 points, so I was very happy with the prospect of being able to damage and or kill one. Unfortunately, Flak Panther Gepard survives, but that Bradley does not, and he does go down to the Rooikat, getting a nice side shot kill. So this is something, just when units get called in, they're on fast move. If he had stopped and fought, my Rooikat may well have died. But because he kept driving, I got an advantageous shot, and it worked out pretty well. Now my opponent has realized, oh, he still has something over here. Tiger Had coming in just to sort of bop it on the head even harder, and my XH1 Alpha is going to be a little bit outclassed here in the air if he's not careful. Meanwhile, SASF, I believe they got another helicopter kill, but something, Flame, Something with Flames is coming in, and now we're going to have to be fending off a bit of a push here. Yep, infantry, it looks like light riflemen in combat, LVTPs, which I believe carry frag launchers, yeah, it looks like it, and the SISF are finally just completely overwhelmed and relatively well pushed back. In terms of the whole battlefield, I'm feeling still pretty confident here. The fight over in the east is turning into a bit of a quagmire, and that is a definite problem. But Charlie is holding strong, Delta is holding strong. I'm sort of still a little bit worried about this rear position, but there's nothing too much I can do for that right now. I mean, I'm trying to just sort of scout it out with an XH1 Alpha, and here, in fact, we do find the paratroopers, Legion 90, that were in that position. XH1 Alpha opening up with his nose cannon, takes out one group, probably going to take out the other group as well without too much trouble. And in the meantime, Bocop fighting against US Marines, which is a pretty worth it trade for me. Bocop, of course, regular training, but a pretty good FN mag, tertiary weapon, and Vector R4s. We do get the drop on the US Marines in the forest, and since they're panicked and one of my groups is still calm, we do have pretty decent advantage over them in terms of accuracy. That's working out okay. I do have a Oliphant Mark 1B Optimum. I really love these guys. I think the Oliphant Mark 1s, the 60-point versions, just don't quite perform up to that 60-point price line, but the Optimums, true to their name, are slightly better for that sort of mid-range role. So there's a bit of a ooh, never mind. I forgot about this. Rooivalks goes after the Tiger Had, does take him down, very nice kill on our part. But there are infantry now coming over, and there's AA in the woods. A Rooivalks goes down as well, and we're starting to get pushed out of the east now, which will be a bit unpleasant. Not to mention that my Rooikat can't take those two troop in if they get much closer, and he is about to be spotted by the Gazelle. So yep, he is spotted, and now I'm bringing out lots of infantry reinforcements to sort of form a defensive line on that eastern section, as well as Russell 20s, moving up to reinforce the lines at Charlie. I was sitting on quite a few more points than I had thought, just because, I mean, the chaos of doing the 2v2 map against 3 people all on one's lonesome is occasionally a little bit of a micro stress. But, you know, I looked up, realized I had something like 400, 500 points floating, and that's never exactly what you want. So you do have those Caspiers starting to arrive. They'll carry probably Bocop, maybe Parabat as well. And you have a Cactus Sov here, just because Lowing tends to like to attack with helicopters, and so does Vimes these days. The US helicopters will see a lot of heavy hogs and things like that, leading the way with DAPs, backing them up to prevent helicopter actions of my own. Doubly so because of the success that my Rooivalks have had during this engagement. So there's a little bit of sit and stare. Golf has been completely secured by my opponents. But we're still taking it that +2, now at about 233 points out of 500, and that's okay with me. It's also pretty apparent that they haven't been able to come up with an answer to my forward tanks, at least not one that's satisfactory, as we do get a couple shots on, looks like Martyr 1 transports, excellent autocannons. Never mind, sight's obscured, there it is. Shot from the Elephant goes in, takes one of them down. It's going to kill the infantry in there as well, just because of the sheer AP power on that main gun, 17. Enough to kill the, well, actually with an armored transport, I'm not sure. With an unarmored transport, that would be much more than enough to kill the transport and have the penetration from the AP round just kill all the infantry inside, basically. That's sort of how it's modeled. Overkill travels through to the infantry. I have put some Parabat back here just to fight off anything that wants to come up this way. It's a bit of a base defense type thing, I guess. People do that usually with 15-point cheap gun AA. It is relatively effective at killing scout infantry, things like that, but I wanted to be a bit more thorough, so Parabat are the order of the day. 15-point shock infantry in a double squad, along with 2 Caspier K-cars, which are mostly pretty similar, just a vehicle instead of anything else. And we do now catch some infantry moving up. I don't know why that wasn't smoked, it probably should have been. But that is a bit of a disaster for the US forces operating in that section, as Elephant opens up, takes out what looks like a Bradley and a Humvee transport. Unclear whether it was unloaded or not, but you know, I am starting to get pushed back a little bit here. We have eyes on a Legion, and it looks like, I think a Leclerc was the tank that was behind there, which is, of course, quite a problem. And we did lose a unit of Parabat to it as well. 3 Carvers out here at this point, just to really say, hey, you know, No, these are my skies, they're not yours. And we have a Rooikat moving up, as well as 2 Buccaneers hoping and succeeding at killing that super heavy tank. I believe, no, not right there. That was a scout helicopter. It's a tad hard to see. Of course, by this point there is a Rafale out. My Cheetah Ds do take a bad engagement here, and one of them goes down. The other one may or may not get out. I don't quite remember. But Parabat that I sent up there to sort of clear out these woods aren't able to do the job. The Rafale does get hit by the Cactus Saw, but unfortunately that second one misses, and the third one misses as well, so the Rafale does get out. In the meantime, there were Commandos Para that were actually scouting my base. These guys are incredibly deadly, and they do manage to kill one of the Casper K cars as well as spot my Casper BV command vehicle. So that kind of shook me up a little bit, and I'm starting to move the Parabat back. In addition, we have US Marines now attacking into Charlie, which is something that is, well, I think pretty efficiently headed off at the pass there by Oliphants and many units of infantry and transports. 2 Leopard 1A5s make short work of my remaining Parabat, unfortunately, and this ridge has been largely surrendered to the Red 4 forces in the AO. 2 Buccaneers coming in. I'm hoping to maintain vision on those Leopard 1A5s and just get a couple cheeky kills with them. Buccaneers are not that expensive themselves, 90 points, and of course, when you play one against a couple, you do get increased availability, which is why I'm able to do this quite as well as I can. Caspian BV does take some damage from the cluster artillery of my opponent here, and let's see if we can get the kill. Evac orders, I lose track of those 2 tanks. Hanging on with 1 point left, 1 point left. Looks like this is the second half of the salvo coming in, moving back in our direction, and not enough to take it down, so my BV is still safe there, but safe is a relative term, and I definitely don't feel it, so I do call in Puma 330H to come in here and just drop off command infantry in the corner, give me a little bit of redundancy with my home zone, so I can still call in reinforcements should the worst happen. Cactus Sav is out of missiles, and I do have to do something about that, but the Commandos Para have been found again. Parabat moving to intercept as I do lose the XH-1 Alpha scout vehicle, and I'm just sending in Caspier K cars. Now, this was a bit mean. So my opponent just finished his salvo, and I wanted to give them the impression that I lost Alpha while also repositioning my CV to make it a little bit safer. So I move them a little bit forward. They're like, oh, we got it. Nope. Before that Casper PV parks once again. Alouette K cars and Parabat making short work of the remaining Commandos Para. Always a good thing. Well, maybe not if you're French, but always makes me happy to see those guys going down. And we do have now a seaplane, 111A Raven, that picks the wrong neck of the woods, but does manage to dodge not 1, not 2, but 3 independent AA, well, I guess naturally AA, but missiles coming in from Cactus Saw. That's a bit of an impressive feat considering the base accuracy on those guys is pretty high at 65, and that's before their veterancy as well. Now we have howitzer shells coming in, but we're getting pretty close to the end here, only a couple minutes left as my points round up to about 400 or so here, and my opponents think to themselves, well, if we're going to push him, we got to push him now or it's going to be too late. There are of course 20 or so minutes, about 21 minutes left in the match, but that really doesn't matter if one team or the other gets to 500. And there's the warning for 80% of the total points. We saw some tanks moving up here. We do have I mean, this was not the most thorough position in Charlie as I probably could have made it, but I was hoping it would be enough, and I was hoping it would let me, I was really sort of just a little bit obsessed with taking back this ridge, probably more than I should have been. But as it turns out, we have an attack coming in, pretty well placed from my opponent here moving into Charlie, but the Oliphant Mark 1B Optimum is not the proper target for those LVTP transports, shooting in with their grenade launchers. I mean, yeah, they'll get occasional crits, they'll do an occasional stun, but they're not really going to work through that armor with any sort of speed. US Marines, meanwhile, on the other side, do catch out some of my mech imp that were moving up to these woods here, but I do have a second pair as well as Mark B there as well. And we do finally now lose the first command vehicle in this section to another cluster artillery salvo. So the US forces are moving up, and I've just decided to be a bit of a jerk and attack with all the Alouette K cars that I had. So these guys are 25 points helicopters, and this is very much not efficient, but it did panic the hell out of them, which was well worth it to me. We do get a couple kills here. I mean, that looks like a tank? Yeah, I think so. A couple other kills as well, and Gepard is starting to get most of those K cars. Just that guy probably got something like 400 points worth of value stopping this push, if you can even call it a push, but it's really just a distraction, buying that little bit of extra time for me to get from 450 up to 300 points and seal the deal. I wasn't too worried. This push sort of petered itself out a little bit. I think there might be a couple units in these backwoods, but they have a long way to go to actually be impactful. I think, yeah, so the Flakmanzer Gepard gets the second guy here, I think so. Yep, there's the guns, yep, and there's a single Alouette K car moving forward to their home zone, but as Justin sort of starts to push over this ridge, oh, he's playing the Dutch. Usually plays Scandinavia, but a couple effective kills. It's just a little bit of too little too late, unfortunately, for my opponents here. Bomber coming in, he's trying to loop around and go for Alpha. I think he actually runs out of fuel, but yeah, that will largely be the game, so let's just speed through the last little bit of it here and take a look at the kills. Yep, my opponent moving forward right into a line of Parabat and relatively competent defenses, I would like to think. Bombing run going in just to sort of send a message at the end there. And if we look at kills, losses here, I had 3,980 points in kills, 3,400 in losses. Relatively even game. I mean, 500 is a pretty big difference, but it's 500 on the scale of 4,000, which is proportionately far less than, say, yesterday's match where it was 780 to around 240. Same, well, relatively similar absolute difference, much different relative difference. If we do take a look in at the units that performed well, we had a Rooikat 105 in the initial forward push. That did pretty well here, took out Leopard 1A5, bit surprising. Legion and a Vab. We had good performance all around from the Cactus Sobs, so Super Cobras, Heavy Hogs, things like that. Rooikat 76s are always pretty nice, but this one was the one that was ambushing reinforcements, so we got the M3A2 Bradley, itself worth 80 points just on its own. SAF 90 initially off the bat performed pretty well. We had a good kill on P4 PC with Rooikat 76. All in all, pretty decent performance, real standout units. Probably the Optimums showed their worth here very, very well, crushing the initial infantry deployments from the, the opposing side. And yeah, most of my 1B Optimums did very well. That's all we've got for today. Thank you all for hanging around. We'll see you again real soon.